Okay. Great. Ages. Okay, so let's, Brian, are you rolling? Okay. So here we are in the morgue for our endorsement interview for Multnomah County District 4. That's the east side of Multnomah County. Vast reaches out there. Endorsement interview for that position. We have Vince Jones Dixon.
Yes.
You are a Gresham City Councilor. And we have Brian Knotts, and you're a consultant.
Yeah, I'm an IT consultant.
IT consultant. So why don't we do this? We take 5 minutes for each of you to introduce yourselves and tell us why you want this job and why you're qualified for it.
Could you give us also some of your bio?
Yeah, but yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. I just have a few notes here just so I don't forget what I'm talking about. My name is Brian Knotts. I'm running for the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners for District 4, the easternmost part of the county, all the way to Hood River County, rather. I started off my candidacy only seeking to offer an alternative on the ballot.
Brian, I'm sorry. Please start. Where were you born? Where were you raised?
Oh, okay.
Tell me about your employment history.
Okay, I
That's okay.
misunderstood
That's right.
what you were
Yes, I wasn't clear.
at the beginning. Yeah. So yeah, I'm originally from Chicago. I lived there till I was like 17. Then I lived in California, and I did all kinds of odd jobs. I worked in broadcasting in California.
Can you tell us about education? Where were you educated? Degrees?
Well, I'm getting there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because I worked in broadcasting for 5 years in San Luis Obispo County. And then, after I realized that broadcasting was not going to be much of a career for me, then I went back to college. So I have a degree in speech communication from Humboldt State University, which is now called Cal Poly Humboldt,
right.
But it just doesn't sit right to me. So then I also worked in television while I was at Humboldt State, and then ended up kind of moving towards technology while I was in college. And so I moved to the Portland area. I moved to Milwaukee originally, and started in kind of the early days of the whole internet thing. So
yeah. Doing what?
I did web development initially. Yeah, and then I moved into kind of support because they were having a little bit of financial problems. I worked for a company. The company that I worked for was Europa Communications in downtown Portland. I worked in the Pioneer Building, which is now a hotel right above Huber's, so we smelled turkey all day. And
what floor were you on?
The second floor.
We were on the third floor.
In the same building?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pioneer Building.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, we were right down from, I can't remember his first name now, Kafori, his office.
Great.
So we would occasionally go in there and help him with his computer.
What exactly were you doing for Europa?
So I was doing web development. I was doing initially like HTML and that sort of thing.
Right.
And then I started doing some programming. And we kind of, they kind of were having a little bit of difficulty, so I ended up doing just like phone support for a while, where people that were having problem with their internet connection, I would help them. And then that kind of worked into, they sold the company, and so we eventually, myself and one of the owners, we went to work for another company, which was Concentrix, which is now Harlan Financial Services, and we developed software, web software.
You were programming and building software?
Yes.
What kind of languages do you work with?
I did mostly PHP and then SQL on the back end,
Okay.
and then some Perl, and yeah.
And so you did that until when?
I did programming up until, I'd say about off and on 10 years ago.
Okay.
And it just kind of, we gradually just moved into IT. And I started doing more and more IT, and then kind of moved mostly into the kind of network server side of things. And so I've been doing that ever since.
And so are you on your own, or you work for a company?
I worked for a company before, then I started a company with a couple of guys. Then I left because my wife and I wanted to do a cinnamon roll business, which we did.
Cinnabon?
No,
Your own?
No, our own.
Your own, like a...
Yeah, it was called Barb's Cinnamon Rolls.
Nice.
And they were the best. But COVID hit,
Yeah.
and we lost the lease to our kitchen, and so we had to shut down. So then I just refocused on IT, and I have a number of clients around the state, and
Okay.
I do work on a couple of
Why did you
government ships.
lose the license for the kitchen? They said you can't be in there because of COVID, or?
Well, here's what happened. They were a catering company, and a lot of their business was catering to the schools. Well, the schools were shut down. They didn't need any catering anymore, so they had to sell the building.
So Brian,
Oh, okay.
can you, thank you for that bio. Can you talk about any civic community service you've done?
Well, I worked for the Census Bureau. That was an interesting thing, actually.
But I mean, have you ever been involved in school board, civic engagement, volunteer governmental oversight committees?
No, I haven't.
Have you?
No,
so
I
what's
haven't.
your level of government
And
involvement?
so that was kind of, in my remarks, what I was going to explain was
Right.
that I don't have any experience in government. And so normally I would not be running. But in the last election for this seat, Lori Stegman ran unopposed. And so I said, this is not acceptable. We need to have at least someone else on the ballot.
Right.
So I decided at that time that I was going to do that, at least be on the ballot. And then, I found out, oh yeah, she's term limited out, so there isn't going to be an incumbent, so I decided to do a little bit more and make a little more of an effort, although I don't have really much backing, don't have a lot of money behind me, so.
And you're a Republican, correct?
I am a registered Republican, but I am approaching this differently because it's a nonpartisan seat. And what I want to do is just represent the people that are not happy about the way things are being run in this county under the current chair.
Okay, thank you.
We'll come back to that.
Okay?
Yeah. Great. My name is Vince Jones-Dixon. Excited to be here. My background, I grew up here in the Pacific Northwest, specifically in Northeast Portland, so right in the heart of the Woodlawn neighborhood. I'm number 4 out of 10 kids, or 12, technically 12 kids, so I'm known as the mediator in our family. And 2 of which are girls, the rest are boys, so that's fairly exciting. Graduated from De La Salle North Catholic High School. First 2 years spent at Roosevelt High School. My mother didn't think it was academically challenging, so she transferred me over to De La Salle. It's a great experience. I had the opportunity to work for Freightliner during that time, and I think that's where I guess my heart for service was formed specifically. Directly after high school, the age of 18, I started working in the death care industry as a removal technician.
What is that?
We're the first.
It's exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah, we're the first impression of the funeral home. So whenever a death occurs or happens, we're the team that goes in, we meet with the family, explain the next steps, and then we bring their loved one into our care and take them back to the
And
funeral
I'm
home.
sorry, did you say you had a family connection to this business?
No. It was a God connection. I was working at Walgreens, and Mr. Von Bailey just walked in and he said, "Hey, brother, would you be interested in working at the funeral home?" That's literally what happened.
Is this after Freightliner, you said?
Yeah, this is directly after graduating from high school.
Right after high school?
Right
Okay.
after high school. Yeah, so I called 4 of my friends because I grew up in the church, and I could never wrap my mind around just eternity. The path you have to die in order to go to heaven. So the fact that Mr. Bailey presented the opportunity to me, I was extremely nervous. So I called 4 of my buddies, and they hired 2 of us. And I've been serving families for the last 16 years in that industry. What led me to public service was a conversation that I had with my brother about 10 years ago. Andreas, we were driving through Rockwood. And Andreas, I call him Dre, he started to describe the community. And he said, "V, these kids need to see something different." Because at the time he was pretty active in the streets. He was a known gang member, and he said he wanted to start an after-school program focused on math and science, and he said one of the main things that's missing is connecting families and kids to resources. And about 3 months after that conversation, he got shot and killed in that same neighborhood.
Rockwood?
Rockwood, right there in the heart of Rockwood. And I remember when my family and I, when we arrived on the scene, my mind immediately went back to the conversation we had 3 months prior. And like, I want to start that work, but I didn't know how or where to start. By that time, I was 5 years into my career as a death care professional. And about a year and a half after his passing, my wife did a project called Who is Rockwood? And the purpose of the project was to get immersed in the community, learn whether or not Rockwood is only known for everything negative that was coming from the news as far as crime and everything bad. And through the process, her and her classmates found out that there's more to Rockwood. Rockwood is a community where the social capital is extremely high, and the main thing that's missing is connecting that community to resources, and it's pretty disjointed from the government and everything.
If we could back up just a little bit, did you go to college or did you just work straight out of high school?
Jumped right over
Got
that.
it.
So yeah, so I did go to college. So I'm a graduate of Mount Hood Community College. I studied communications and broadcasting, and like Ryan, found out that that was a dying industry.
Smart
Easy.
idea.
Easy.
Well,
We're
they
here.
were shifting. No, they were shifting to podcasts.
I hear you.
Yeah, to podcasts. So we went from
Joking.
tape.
Yeah.
And even Mr. Springle, he was one of my teachers or professors. I mean, radio is a beautiful thing. I mean, to be able to tell stories through the airwaves, I loved that, and communications and everything as well. But my wife was like, you need something a little more permanent. So you can't be a removal tech your whole life. So I went through an apprenticeship. Now I'm a licensed funeral director and went on to manage.
So licensed, so where do you work?
Currently, Riverview.
Okay.
Riverview Cemetery.
Okay.
Before that, I've worked for...
That's the one right at the foot of the Solar Bridge.
Yes,
right?
yes.
It's beautiful.
Yes, yes. It's
And all the
historic.
bikers go up the hill.
Yes, historic cemetery and funeral home.
That was where my grandmother was cremated.
Is that
I
right?
have very fond feelings about
Yeah.
that place.
I bike up there all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also I worked for Dignity Memorial and then also Foundation Partners Group as well. So yeah, I went to school for broadcasting. My main goal was to have like a John Tesh radio program, a radio station or medium that encourages people to be who God's called them to be, and that's given like clear, pretty much what you guys are doing through Willamette Week, state the facts and then encourage, provide information, unfiltered information. So.
And then Gresham City Council.
Yes.
When did that come into the picture?
That came into the picture in 2020. So from going back to my wife's project, Who is Rockwood, I ended up speaking during that community session about the impacts of Andreas's passing. And at the end of the conversation, 2 community members walked up to me with tears in their eyes and they said, Vince, we were there the day that your brother passed. And then they began to describe the scene as far as what happened. And then they said that they had a video of my brother's final moments. And they asked me if I would like to see the video. And I said, yes, of course. And when I watched the video, you could see my brother didn't receive medical care. And then you can hear community members asking, why aren't they helping? So in that moment, it galvanized this, it propelled me into this just discovery. So after I saw that, I started to get more engaged in community conversations around community safety. And I did my own just seeking an investigation as far as how the system works within the city of Gresham. And then from there, I began to ask the city councilors and the folks in leadership, our city managers, to make recommendations. And I began to notice that nothing was shifting and or happening. So in 2016, folks were encouraging me to run. And I said, no, I don't even know how the water works. And then in 2018, I continued to get involved and nothing was moving. And then in 2020, it's like, this is the best time to run because it's complete chaos. And I had full context. And that's what I did. So in 2020, I got appointed to city council and then I started the work. The very first thing that we did.
Elected or
appointed? I got appointed unanimously.
Who vacated the position?
So that was the mayor. The mayor, he resigned, Mayor Bemis. The city manager, he resigned or retired early, and then our chief of police as well.
Right.
So Mayor Eccles got appointed. She got bumped up, and then I filled her seat.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then have you had to run for re-election?
I did. So that's
22?
2020.
In 2020 you ran?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how long were you sitting?
3 months.
Yeah.
4
Wow.
months.
Oh, so you
from
got
June-
appointed and then you had to run for re-election?
Yes.
Bummer.
Oh, and
Yeah, that was fun. It was great,
And
actually.
who'd you run against?
5 other candidates.
And
Were any of them serious contenders?
They
or-
all were.
They all were?
Yeah. Well, the majority of them were, or two of them were.
And did you get a plurality in the?
I did.
Okay. So, and I should know this. Is it a full-time position?
No. Well, I act as if it is. So
Or, no, but I mean it's.
no, it's not.
Your
It's
salary is not treated as
No.
if it's a. Okay.
No, no, no.
So tell us what your proudest of accomplishment.
I would say
while on city council.
Yeah, in Gresham, we did things a little different. We did things our way. So instead of, there's a handful of things, but the main thing, we learned how to work together. A lot of the initiatives that we put forth, they weren't performative. For example, we put up the they put up the Black Lives Matter flag, and then we had a conversation as far as what does this really mean for us in Gresham, they being the council. I think that there's two things I'm most proud of. One is instead of defunding the police, we defined what we were asking them to do, and then we funded those programs. And then we did a full assessment through a third party of our police department. Me personally, I reached out to the union president. I asked them what's going on, what's happening. Actually, we got together before I even got on council. I said, what are the things that need to be addressed? And they said the DA, he's struggling, and we don't trust him for these reasons. So we invited the DA, the district attorney, and the U.S. Attorney's Office to come in and meet with our officers and hear from them and provide feedback. And then also we invited the district attorney to come and present to our council as well. In that moment, if you go back and watch a video, he said, I've never presented to, Mike said, I've never presented to a council before. This was 2021 or 2022. It's like, this is why. So we cleared the air as far as the narrative, and then also we said we have to work together as far as these solutions. So that's one thing. So Gresham led in that area. Also for our homeless services, we have a council that is extremely diverse, and we like to address things head on. So if a community member brings something up to us, we try to respond in the moment, and we work with staff to address that issue. The second thing I would say, within our fire department, over the last 30 years, they felt ignored. So I've personally taken the stories that I've heard from the frontline workers, bubbled them up to the rest of the council, and then also to our leadership team and say, hey, what are we doing, and how are we going to come up with solutions to best meet the needs of our first responders? And we're seeing that now. We've been seeing that over the last year and a half or 2 years.
What did you do to the police department? What were the programs, just briefly, the programs that you augmented? Yeah.
So there's one of those is our behavior health team. For example, we know that the number of calls that they're responding to, as far as folks that have mental health or that need additional services, we have two clinicians that ride with our officers, and they respond to those calls. So we gave additional funding from our ARPA funds, and then through the budget allocated additional funding for that, and then also for the non-sworn positions as well. So for it's not park rangers, but the community safety officers. So we funded those things. So that was based out of information that we received from community. And the last thing we did was we hired Barry Dunn to come in and do a full-on.
Wait, hold on.
This is really the morgue.
You just walk around and wave your arms in the front hall.
That was the timer. That was over 5 minutes.
Yes, the timer.
Sorry. So the last thing is this Barry Dunn report, which I encourage you to check out. We hired a third party. That was through the leadership of Corey Falls, and the current chief hired them to come in and do a full assessment of our department, with our department and communities, to collect feedback, look at how many officers do we need, and things like that, and they can look at it objectively.
So this was this is Gresham's answer to defund.
Answer to the community. Instead of defund, we defined what we're asking our officers to do, and with this community, and it's a constant defining.
Did you increase the police budget, or just keep it steady?
Yeah, we have.
Okay.
Yeah, we have, and community safety in general. So.
The county right now, this is a little bit of an oversimplification, but not too much, is divided between sort of the Julia Brim Edwards and the Sharon Myrons, who've got a different attitude about what the county ought to be doing, and Jessica Vega Peterson and Shushila and some others. Where do you fall on that spectrum? Brian has made it very clear in this document where he falls on that spectrum. You clearly align yourself more closely with the Sharon Myrons of the world. And I'm just wondering where you sit on that.
Yeah, someone described me a couple weeks ago as a reformer. So, I mean, you could say the same thing about our council before. You could say that everybody just rubber stamped everything and moved along with the mayor. I'm a leader, so I'm going to take the information. I serve the people, take the information that I hear from the community, and see how that matches with the system, and then
With the
work on
greatest of
policy.
respect, you're not answering the question. So I'm
So-
going to ask it one more time. There's a very clear division ideologically about how the county ought to be spending its money, particularly as it relates to mental health challenges, homelessness, drug addiction on the streets, between Julia Brim Edwards, Sharon Myron, and the rest of the county commission. Where do you fall?
Give me an example so I can respond to it. There's
Well,
like
I mean, I think you know, like Julie Brim Edwards and Sharon Myron have been very critical of how the joint office has spent
Yeah, we-
money. I mean,
They
you,
feel like
you know,
they-
you're.
so this is what I know to be. This is what I see. They have provided recommendations and they're not listening. The
I'm
folks
sorry,
on
they is who?
they mean Sharon Myron, for example. She provided
she's provided recommendations.
recommendations for
And-
transport and AMR.
Right. And who's not listening?
The commission. She's not being heard.
Right.
Like she's not being heard through the process.
Right. But it's
so
possible
what-
she's not being heard because she's
She's
wrong.
bad, yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out where you are on this issue.
We have to do a full diagnosis of the issue. I'm of the belief of let's verify that. Let's explore that. We have to. If someone
If you haven't made up your mind at this point about your attitude about how to spend the billions of dollars that Multnomah County has to treat homelessness and drug addiction and mental health behavior, how can you claim that you're ready for prime time if you haven't thought about this?
I have thought.
My guess is you've thought about it, but you're unwilling to take a position, so we're going to ask you again.
Yeah, that's a
Please
good.
do so.
So you're asking
Your opponent has taken a firm position,
I do not.
despite his lack of
I do
government
not
involvement.
support. So this is where I'm at personally. I don't support division, and that's what I see right now. They're not working together, and I don't know why. As far as Sharon Myron and the chair and everyone else, my approach is the same approach that I took in Gresham, in the heart of George Floyd, when everybody's like, we cannot support law enforcement because it's not political, because it's too polarizing. That's wrong. You can't just cut them out. It's the same thing at the county. You can't cut out an expert or someone that is an emergency room doc, or you can't cut out someone that, if they have the experience or they've been elected. So you have to take that into consideration and provide an opportunity for them to fully participate in developing the solution.
So are you
I-
therefore critical of the county chair's
I'm critical.
management?
Yes, I am. 100% so. Yes.
Okay, thank
Maybe we
you.
can go like maybe issue by issue. So let's talk about homelessness. What do you think the county is doing wrong in regards to homelessness right now?
They're not listening to the community-based organizations. They could. What I've seen. I serve on the board of a nonprofit, Cultivate Initiatives, and I've talked to some of the folks involved, some of the leaders, and they said systems are making traps and not trampolines, meaning they're trapping folks that are struggling with addiction, and they're not trampolining them into opportunities. That needs to be cut through. We need to figure out how to do that. So I would say working with the CBOs, working with us at the city level, the electeds, working with Metro. Can we get on the same page as far as the solution for these things within our community? 3 years ago, I asked the Joint Office of Homeless Services how much money is being allocated for homeless services out in East County. I didn't get an answer.
So you don't think the joint office is doing a good job?
No.
This is to your point. Where is the money getting? The money's getting stuck somewhere, right? The money's there. It's not, but from what we can tell, and our colleague Nigel's reported, it's not getting spent in Multnomah County where it is getting spent in Clackamas and Washington. This is a question for both of you. Where do you think it's stopping? Where is it stopping, and how do you break that log jam? Specifically, I don't know.
Well, I think that part of the problem is, I got to take a different position here, is that the chair is listening to certain community organizations too much, and she's just basically doing their bidding. What we have is a situation where we have a whole bunch of money going to an incredibly large number of nonprofits, and we don't seem to have like real oversight or anybody just saying, hey, are we really getting anything for this? Is anything actually happening? So that's why one of my ideas is, and of course it would be a challenge with the chair in charge of basically the agenda, but we really need an audit of all these nonprofits that, not like people receiving minimal amounts, but But, you know, if you're getting $20, $30, $40,000 a year minimum from the county, we ought to have some, you know, procedure to say, okay, what are we getting for this amount of money, and is it worth what we're paying, or should we redirect those dollars somewhere else to actually get something accomplished?
And do you agree with that?
I do, and I believe that those audits are happening now through the auditor's office. They just need to become public, or more public, and be more specific as far as the region, like in East Multnomah.
Have you endorsed in the other county races?
I have, yes.
Okay, and who have you endorsed?
So far, I've endorsed Vadim and Jesse Berg.
Okay, okay.
How'd you make that choice?
Through the conversation. So we've met early on, and then also we've met like 2 months ago or 3 months ago. So just being in conversation with them.
Could both of you describe the demographics of your district? Just sort of draw a picture for us. Go ahead.
Yeah. East Multnomah County specifically, it's predominant. It's extremely diverse. I'm thinking Gresham specifically, where over 80 languages are spoken. As far as the financial, if you drew a line, I think one of my good friends, if you drew a line from I-205 east, it is the poorest. It would be, East County would be known as the poorest city in America. So that's and then the west side would be one of the richest cities in America, and that's the challenge. I think
It wouldn't be the poorest, but one of the poorest.
one of the poorest.
Okay,
Yeah,
got you.
I think did you have a follow up?
No, but go ahead. I do, but you're continuing. So
I can. I think the challenge is one of the biggest challenge that I've heard and seen over the last 8 years or 7 years being civically involved. The East County, we feel like we haven't been heard or listened to or even thought of when we're thinking about the just the challenges that we're facing as a region. I asked a leader from the city of Portland. I was like, "What's the plan for East Portland?" I was like, "Well, the plan is to build more apartments for folks." And I was like, "How is that helping to build generational wealth? Do we go out and engage with the community, do a full diagnosis as far as what the challenges are, and how do we address these things around just poverty and just public health and everything, and public safety and community safety and everything else?" It hasn't been done.
Brian, do you know who the biggest employers are in your district?
I think On Semi is one of the biggest ones.
I'm sorry?
I think On Semi. It's
I've never even heard of them.
Yeah, they make chips.
Microchip,
In Gresham.
Subaru.
I figured they were the
Yeah.
biggest.
Yeah, Microchip, Subaru.
And they just got a bunch of money from the
Amazon.
CHIP Acts.
Yes.
So are they ramping up employment?
Yes, and then they furloughed. I heard they furloughed a handful of people like 2 months ago. Microchip did. Yes, but I'm not sure why.
Counselor, where do you stand on the whole, there's this debate, obviously we have a lot of issues with AMR right now, and it sounds like you have a very personal experience with that because your brother was killed, and then it sounds like first responders weren't really responding. Where do you stand on the Multnomah County debate right now about AMR and how to approach it?
Yeah, it's a problem. It's an issue that was brought up 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, and our fire department sat with the county and they said, "We have an issue with transport." We respond, and we're waiting for 30 or 40 minutes for someone to transport a patient or a citizen to, we're failing. So that's my answer, and we need to come up with a solution, an immediate solution, a temporary
And
solution.
what do you think that is? I mean, do you think it's just increase the amount that we're paying AMR so
I
that
think
staff
we
more
need to
people
think, yeah, personally, I would like for us to allow for us to transport, whether it's our fire department temporarily.
as in Portland Fire or?
Portland or Gresham Fire.
Doesn't this come down
I'd
to?
just like to add that,
Yeah.
this is an easy one to get started on. We can get rid of the stupid 2 paramedic rule.
That's my question. One or two
I mean,
paramedics.
it's just crazy that the chair is standing in the way of this.
And do you agree with that it's crazy the chair is standing in the way of that?
I think the solution is 1 paramedic and 1 EMS in one.
So you're both
basic-
one paramedic.
For temporary,
folks.
yes.
Yeah.
The reason for that is when our fire department, we typically have 2 paramedics, and they're usually the first ones there. And if you need to send one of them with the paramedic, one person needs to drive anyways. That's an easy for the next year and a half or 2 years, until we get more medics in the system. Why not? And the majority of cities and other towns are doing that.
I was thinking this was well, maybe union didn't want it or something, but in talking to Portland Firefighters Association, they said, we don't take a position on that. We can work with whatever.
Yeah, we just need someone to transport because they're sitting on a call for 30 plus minutes, or at least we are out in Gresham. In Portland, it's different. So the folks that are paying, they're receiving less care, are just the community in East Multnomah County. That's not okay.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask about the jails.
Yes.
We've written a lot about the conditions of the Multnomah County jails.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering whether that's high on your agenda, and if so, what would you do about it?
Personally, it's extremely high on mine, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, we shouldn't have jail beds sitting empty if if that's causing a problem for the courts, which it seems to. And then the other thing is, I've been reading some disturbing things about the conduct of some of the correctional officers there. And this is kind of personal for me because actually my uncle was once the warden of Joliet Prison.
Oh.
Yeah, and
That's a big prison.
There's a story about him after there was a murder in the prison. He gave this speech to the prisoners, standing in the blood of the guy that was killed, and he was very serious about trying to run a professionally administered prison, and we really need to do that. While I strongly believe in making sure that we are punishing criminals, at the same time we need to do it in a humane and professional way. We shouldn't be, I mean, I'm sure you read about this. It may have been in Willamette Week.
It was.
Yeah. That angers me because it causes, it's just not right.
On a related note, where were you? Did you vote for Measure 110? And what do you think of the fix?
I voted against 110, and I made it known at the time that I thought it was a terrible idea. And I am glad that this has been walked back a bit, because while in theory, there's political theories that, people ought to be able to, do what they want, put whatever they want in their body. Then there's like real life. And we see already the effects of what's happened, to people. People that are addicted to drugs don't have free will, and so we really need to be careful about this kind.
So you were against it. And
I was against
it. Did the fix
it,
go far enough? Did the legislature get it right?
I think we still have to see. We still have to see the results, but I think it's a step forward, and I would be willing to go further.
Vince?
Yeah, can I answer the question about the jails and
Sure,
restore? I think our institution should be rehabilitating our citizens and not just punishing them. I feel as though the incarceral system currently is just warehousing folks, and we need to do a better job with that. As far as the empty beds, that's not acceptable. How are we using these spaces as far as institutions of rehabilitation, and then also how are we inviting those community members back into our society? Should charge and hold the person accountable for the crime that they've done, and then redeem and help rehabilitate them. I think that's an area that I'm going to be focused on. That's the reason why I'm running. I have a family member that's serving. He's been in prison for over 24 years, and it's heartbreaking to see just like the progress that folks have made, and just like how we invite them back into community in our society. So that's another reason.
What's he incarcerated for?
It's a personal. So it's personal. It's his. Don't feel comfortable sharing his business,
Sure.
but I just use that as an example. Sure. And I've had other family members as well. And then to your question, as far as Measure 110, voted no for that. And then as far as the fix, I'm excited for the shift.
You voted no the first time?
Yes, I'm excited for this shift because we have an opportunity to get things right and ensure that people are receiving help and we're forced to work together.
What did you see? What didn't you like in 110? Because I voted for it, and I'm like, I have regrets.
Yeah, I think just hard, just a pathway. My thing is, how are we?
Something must have not sat right.
Yeah, I think just the vision of the future, what that could look like. And then when I don't remember, I just remember reading.
But it was a no.
Yeah, it was a no.
Yeah.
It was a no. And probably about a year and a half ago, I remember we took our kids down to Grits and Gravy from Gresham. Grits and Gravy is a restaurant in downtown Portland off of 6th Street. And I remember my son, he's like, where are we? He thought we were like in a third world country based off of what he was seeing on the streets. And it was overly stimulating, for him. And that's a product of, Measure 110. But just moving forward in the future, I mean, we have a table that's been set with the DA's office and the chiefs and city leadership and lawmakers talking about just the future as far as diversion and helping our members of society that struggle with just addiction in general. So I'm looking forward to building out that program as a county commissioner and as a community member as well.
Can you each take a minute to talk about if you were elected, the first thing you would do in office? Would you, is there a specific, county agency that you are particularly not suspicious of, but feel like you've never understood and you want to lift the hood off of? Or what's the first project you would undertake? And please be specific about a policy, not just community, getting to know your colleagues. Please be specific about something you would really do.
Yeah.
Mine is not so much being suspicious of a department, but I would want to immediately start to find ways to improve the condition of our roads and bridges, because they are disastrous, at least in East County. And people forget that there's also, in addition to the kind of, Rockwood area, there's also rural East Multnomah County. That's where I live. And our roads went from being the best in the state to the worst.
Where do you live?
I live in Corbett.
So Multnomah, that's real. Infrastructure is really a city thing.
State.
The county doesn't,
No, there's a county road system, and the county and in rural East Multnomah County, those are all county roads except for the ODOT ones. So
And the county maintains those?
the county maintains them. Well, they used to maintain them.
Who maintains them now?
No one.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. There was a change about 15 years ago, and the Board of Commissioners decided they were going to de-emphasize road maintenance out in East Multnomah County, and it's.
Are you on a dirt road?
What's that?
Are you on a dirt road?
So my house, a tree fell on it, so it's under repair right now. I am on a dirt road.
And it's not maintained.
That's not maintained, but the worst was the paved road that leads to there.
Are you off Larch Mountain Road?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how's Larch Mountain Road? Who maintains that? Is that?
That's a county.
That's really?
Yeah. Yeah, the only road in that area that's ODOT is the scenic highway.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I know the potholes on Larch Mountain pretty well.
Oh yeah.
From biking.
They're terrible.
Do you this is in your this is your district, it's east of 205. Do you think that the citizens of Argay Terrace are getting the shaft by having this this logistics warehouse built in their neighborhood?
Tell me more, I haven't followed.
It's Argay Terrace, and there's a huge logistics warehouse. Because all along 30 there, it's all warehouses, shipping warehouses, right? And there's a lot of them. And there's a landowner who has leased the land to
Logix?
Yeah, Prologis.
Prologis.
And they're gonna. It's the site of the old Kmart.
Mm-hmm.
You know the Kmart?
Oh, yeah.
The huge Kmart with the parking lot, burned down, Proud Boys, all that.
Mm-hmm.
So and this is an example of where I think these people feel like nobody's listening.
Mm-hmm.
Like, They complained to the city council, they complained to the county, and nobody's listening. The state allowed Prologis to lease this land to build a new freight warehouse, and it sits right in the middle of a bunch of apartment buildings. This hasn't come up on your
No, that's
radar.
122nd. That's outside of our district.
Is it, where is it?
It's off of 122nd.
Yeah.
And
So that's, whose is that?
that's, that would be District 2.
Okay,
That's, yeah.
forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
I
mean,
thought
it's a
that was
big,
you.
yeah.
That's
no,
why both of us were
Okay,
looking at
fine,
you like,
fine.
huh?
Yeah.
Where do you,
I thought
I mean,
that was-
do
I thought
either
that
of you
got in
have a
there.
take on that issue though, and where you would stand on that, even though it's out of your district?
Yeah, I would have to get more, not right now, I don't have a take on that.
Yeah, that's fair.
As far as like jobs and everything else, I haven't.
That's, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's an
That's
issue
a-
in East
that's all
County.
right.
I mean,
Yeah, the one that people have been complaining about to me is there's some kind of water treatment plant that's supposed to go in rural East Multnomah County, kind of southeast of Gresham.
Keep going.
And I haven't looked into it all the way, but I've had more than one person bring this up to me.
I have a question for both of you about Stark Firs property management.
Yeah.
So Rockwood, my
Yeah.
understanding of Rockwood is like this property management company, I think it's owned by a man named Mo Farhood.
Yeah, it's a good
Is
friend.
like half of the housing in
Yeah.
Rockwood.
Yeah.
Can you, I mean, I just never, and maybe this is happening in other neighborhoods too, but I don't think I've ever seen a Portland neighborhood where one property management company has had such a stronghold on like an entire neighborhood. And I believe it's low income housing, right? Which is a bit of a double-edged sword. I mean, it provides housing to people who really need it. But it also seems to be a bit of a turn and burn. There's a lot of evictions that come out of those properties. It sounds like you know Mo. Can you talk about a little bit of, I mean, what do you know about his management company? Does the community view it positively, negatively? Just talk about that.
Yeah, one of so I do know Mo. Mo is a friend, and one of the questions that I've asked him is like, how are we doing as a city and as a county? Have you seen any of the supportive housing dollars? And he said, no, I haven't. I'm self-sustained. I would like to get engaged and receive support. I think one of the areas that are missing for not only Mo Farhood, but all of our service providers that's providing low income or middle income housing, it's just like, how are we supporting the citizens that live there? And we're not seeing, that's one of the things that I'm going to focus on day one, or have been asking, like how much money is coming out to East Multnomah County to our apartments for supportive housing. Do we have caseworkers that are supporting families?
So
and
Mo's
things?
not getting any, from your understanding,
No,
Mo's not
he's
getting
not.
any SHS dollars for anything?
No.
Okay.
I know he's partnered with nonprofits. I
Which, do
believe,
you
like,
know which nonprofits?
Urban Lean Cultivating Initiatives through they called it the Master Lease Program. Now it's called a different name because of the and that's where the nonprofit they
yeah. Rent a block,
Yeah,
basically.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly, and then provide supportive services to those residents.
What have
I
you
would like
heard
to see
from
more of
community
that.
members about Stark Firs? Just because, again, I go out there and it's like, I mean,
Yeah,
just
I've
entire
heard-
roads are Stark Firs.
I've heard that they're struggling. There's challenges within the complexes, and some of it has to do with folks receiving help, folks needing help. Should it be the property manager that's providing those wraparound services, or should it be a Cultivate Initiatives or an Urban Link or a service provider providing those wraparound services and mediating conflicts that are happening within the complexes? As far as the conditions of the complexes, that's another conversation. Like, how are we managing? Do we know what the conditions look like within those apartments and the apartments of Home Forward? How are we tracking that? We need to do.
What you've
better.
heard from your constituents, are they happy with
No one's happy with any of their apartments, with their providers, and I've heard that across the board. So again, it's just like, how do we hold them accountable? And we need to have like a tool, a piece of technology where we're going through and checking. We have a rental services team that goes out and they do inspections on a regular basis, and yeah. So did I answer your question? directly?
I'm just fascinated by the fact that like one man controls half the housing in the Rockwood neighborhood. I mean, it just, you know, and I've heard.
I think a lot of people left the business. I had a
But he
friend
hasn't.
that used to own apartments in that area, and he just finally couldn't do it anymore.
Why?
Because he had a lot of problems with tenants, and in cases where where clearly there an eviction
a tough
was,
job.
yeah, where it was the right thing, it would take them forever. And you know, and housing as an issue in this area, in this district, I mean, that's a huge issue that, yeah, it has connections with Metro and with the cities and with the state, because we have statewide land use planning. But some of the issues, you know, and as far as you talked about departments, we do have the unincorporated areas of the county where the county is responsible for building permits and those kinds of things. Now they contract with the city of Gresham to take care of this, but I have personal experience of what kind of delays we're talking about, even just to repair a damaged house. We're talking a year to get a building permit. That's part of the problem.
Yeah. And so to answer your question, I think it would be good to go on a tour of the various apartment complexes out there, and I would gladly go with you to engage with Mo and some of the other property management companies to hear about the challenges. We have in Gresham, we have this thing called the Gresham One app, where if you see a pothole, and that's something that we should, I think the county has something like that as well, but it's online.
They do, but they never do anything.
Yeah, the difference is we respond to it. So you have the city planner on duty that will respond and say, hey, acknowledge, this is what we can do within this time frame. The same thing needs to happen with...
If someone sees a pothole.
Yeah, you can take a picture of it, same with graffiti.
How often does Gresham get a citizen calling in a pothole?
I don't have that data. I mean, it's tracked through our Gresham. My point is, there's a tool that we have that we've shared with community members.
Right, I'm just wondering how well it's used.
That's a good question. I know it increased ever since I started talking about it a year ago.
Yeah.
You know, at one of our city
We love
meetings.
potholes around here.
Good.
Yeah, we.
Well, sometimes the
Covering
county will
aggressive
come out
right
and
now.
they'll paint a circle around the pothole if you report it, so.
So I have a buddy who owns a laundromat in Gresham, and he has one in Lake O and one on the west side, and he's thinking about closing the one in Gresham.
Where is it in Gresham?
I think it's close to downtown. I haven't been out there, but I think it's close to downtown. And he,
What's his name? Do you?
Anand Charlestad, and he, what would you say to, he's really frustrated with what goes on in his laudromat. It's automated, and that's a question.
That's down the street from my house, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, in Upper Cleveland.
What would
yeah.
you say to him? Why should Anand, you know, he doesn't live in your district, but he's a business owner in your
Yeah.
district. What are you going to do for him as a
Yeah.
business owner in Gresham?
I would connect him with me, and we need to sit down and figure out a resolution or a solution to that problem. We have a very responsive economic development and small business development center, so we need to. And I think I know which one you're talking about, because I've ran into a couple folks in the laundromat. And the question is, and if it's someone that's experiencing houselessness, you can call us immediately, and we have our homeless services team that will respond within, if they're not meeting with someone else, to that person. Or someone from another one of our teams. So I think a lot of people, or a good number of people, don't know about the services that are available.
I'll hook you. I'll connect you.
Available to them. So I would say reach out to me directly, or anyone from City Hall, and then we'll respond and we'll figure out how to resolve the issue, because we want businesses to stay in East Multnomah County. I think it's an example of a responsive government. In Gresham, that's one of the things that I'm proud of, and that's the thing that I'm looking forward to taking over to the county as well. Because I don't.
Quick
Brian,
question, can you?
can Brian
sorry,
ask-
yeah.
I was just going to say, I mean, I think, you know, if we're talking about criminal behavior, I mean, yeah, that's a problem, and it's driving business out. And so for that reason, I've endorsed Nathan Vasquez, because I think we absolutely must have a change at the DA's office. While Mike Schmidt is a smart guy, I mean, I've heard him speak there was a county event I was at recently, and he clearly, you know, knows what's going on, but he just has some bad ideas, in my opinion.
Have you made an endorsement in that?
Yeah, I'm dual endorsing both Mike and Nathan.
You can do that?
I can. How and why?
Why are you doing that?
Yeah, so
I mean,
my-
they're just miles apart.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So Mike, at the very beginning, Mike, he always answers my calls. When I brought up the issue and the challenges that we're facing with our police department, he came in and he responded and he sat with and he made adjustments. Nathan Vasquez, I met him 10 years ago. He prosecuted the gentleman that killed my brother. And we've had a relationship ever since. I didn't know Nathan was going to run until 3 months after I endorsed Schmidt. So I endorse both of their campaigns, and the voters have to choose between both of them. Now the question is, how are you going to lead in this next chapter for us here in the county with the Measure 110 reform work and everything else that's going on? So I have a personal relationship with them both, and I believe they both can do the job. So that's the difference between. My life is very interconnected. So
It sounds like the endorsement of Nathan is a little more personal.
it's both. It's personal, and then through the campaign and learning more about that. That's a really good question. It's personal, and I think he. Let me sit with that. That's a good question. I've seen him work. Now the question, I haven't seen him as in a leadership position as far as leading the department. That's a really good question.
So we're about out of time. Couple questions. Can you tell us how much money you're going to spend on this campaign?
I'm not going to spend very much. I've gotten a few donations. Now things could change if neither of us get a majority. Then
Do you have a voter's pamphlet statement?
Yeah, I do.
So you've spent $500.
Yeah, I've spent that. I've spent money on yard signs, and I'm going to spend a little bit more on some.
And are you
Propaganda
self-funded, or
materials.
do you have any contributions?
I do have a few contributions.
Who's your largest contributor?
My largest is the owner of Cascade Western Representatives, which is a company here in Portland.
Oh, what do they do?
It's one of my clients. So
What do they do?
They're kind of reps for hire kind of thing. So they act as sales representatives for other companies.
Oh.
She's just supporting that just because we're friends. So.
How about you?
Yeah, we're looking to raise about a little over $100,000 to get the word out as far as the importance of this election, and to share the work that we've done over the last 8 years.
And who's your largest contributor?
The contribution limits, as you know, is $568. So I have a handful of people that have given that. Everyone from across the spectrum. So.
Has either of you been endorsed by? Is Lori Stegman endorsing in this race?
Not yet.
What do you think of the job she's done? If you had to give her a letter grade.
D.
D?
Yeah, you've made that clear already.
I would give her a B.
What about for attendance? She hasn't been going to. She hasn't been attending meetings except virtually for a while now, which I think is odd.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I haven't talked to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I couldn't answer that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we're about out of time.
I just think it's a responsibility to show up for work, in my opinion.
We have a question we've asked every candidate. It's a little bit silly. But to wrap up, it's who will play you in the movie of your life?
And the campaign.
You get to choose. Who will play you?
It's funny. Yeah, and I just was talking about this the other day on
Who would
X.
play you in a movie in your life?
No, just of somebody playing somebody else.
Oh.
But yeah, I really don't know. So I'll just throw out Sid Caesar.
There you go. You've just lost 80% of our readers who have no idea who Sid Caesar is.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
you kind of do look like
Do
him.
you know Sid Caesar?
No, but now I do.
You know that Sid Caesar's son lives in Portland?
I did not know that.
He's an ER doc. He actually wrote for us once upon a time.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Oh my God.
Rick Caesar. He's like 6'8". Your turn.
Yeah. I would say Elgin Jones.
Who?
Elgin Jones.
Gotta look up all these.
Yeah. It's with a G. You won't find him. That's my son. 'Cause he's.
No, I'm sorry. That's not. We need an actor.
Yeah, well, he is. He's an aspiring actor.
Oh.
But so he would be my first choice.
Where's he in school?
He would
He's
play the young you.
Yeah, the young.
How old is he?
He's first grade.
Okay.
So he's 7. So he's,
Okay,
who
so
would-
he was going an adult.
Who would
Gotta
play
get
the older you?
probably I would say a good. I was so stuck on my son because he knows the whole. He would be able to provide the whole context because he's been around, and he's an aspiring actor. I would say probably like Michael B. Jordan because he did
you
Bryan
go.
Stevenson's Just Mercy, and then just how he's been able to. And he's just a man of character as well. So I would say Michael B. Jordan. Yeah, that's a good question.
Thank you both for coming in.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank
This has
you.
been very